Tom. I think that the Democratic Party needs to do everything possible. Your Richard Nixon example was perfect that I heard a recording of. The 5 o'clock shadow may have lost in the election. I agree with a point you've brought up many times about the name Democrat, that the Republicans love to put a spin on that and try to emphasize the rat part of it. So I wanted to get your thoughts about an idea that I have, or maybe somebody has an alternative idea, but my thought was, what would you think? And there are precedents. For example, there used to be Cheery Oats, and is now Cheerios, one of the most popular cereals in America. Mm-hmm. Dunkin' Donuts is now just Dunkin'. There's many other examples.
Sure.
My thought was, what if we became the Democracy Party? And then you might say, well, then what would we call the candidates? We could call them the Democracers, like, oh, she's a Democracer candidate from Alabama or whatever. And the reason I suggest it is, first of all, you're taking away the rat connotation. It also has the same number of syllables as Republican. So instead of Republican candidate, you'd say the Democracer candidate. The other thing I thought of, there are many names of different types of people that end in ER: philosopher, laborer, officer, forester, photographer, professor, barrister, driver. And so what would be wrong with calling a candidate a Democracer from the Democracy Party? And I would just love to hear your thoughts.
It's an interesting idea, Brenda. My inclination is, I mean, the name Democratic Party goes back to Thomas Jefferson. And although it was, at that time he called it the Democratic Republican Party. And then they dropped the word Republican from their name in the 1820s. But it's always been called the Democratic Party, and I think rather than trying to change our name because they've slurred our name, we should start calling them out on their slurs. I mean, I do that when I go on Fox News or when right-wingers call into the program and they start talking about the Democrat Party. I always say, you know, there's no such thing as the Democrat Party. That was a slur that from the 1950s that Joe McCarthy came up with, and he said, never say Democratic Party, that sounds too nice. I always say Democrat Party with an emphasis on the rat. And that usually shuts them up. I mean, you know, it's still the religion on Fox News. You will never hear them refer to the Democratic Party, which just shows their disregard for honesty and truth and frankly, the American, you know, their own viewers. But I like the idea. I like the idea behind your idea, and I agree with you on the framing. Number one, it's not going to happen. You know, there's been so much invested over more than 2 centuries in the name Democratic Party. But I do think we need to start calling out these people who are using this slur. I mean, if MSNBC always referred to the Republican Party as the Republican Party, or the Republicant Party, or the GQP or something, you know, equally, you know, not uncommon, but you know, diminutive or dismissive, they would be called out for it. And I don't know why Fox doesn't get called out for this. And frankly, every time one of these Republicans comes on a Sunday show or on one of these political shows and they start talking about the Democrat Party, those hosts, if they don't call them out then and there at the time, we all need to jump all over them on social media and point it out.